Hey everyone, this is D, Movieman, fellow cinephile, popcorn addict, and emerging film critic, coming to you with reliable recaps, reviews, and reactions. So today I'm coming to you guys with a review for A Promising Young Woman, directed by Emerald Fennell and starring Carey Mulligan. So, Promising Young Woman tells the story of a young woman named Cassie Thomas, who is still reeling from a very traumatic experience she had in medical school, which caused her to drop out shortly afterwards. That experience has left her in somewhat of a haze, and she's not sure how to progress forward in her life. But in the meantime, she spends her evenings going out, getting drunk, and meeting up with nice guys. Nice guys who just want to drive her home and make sure no one takes advantage of her. However, what these men do not realize is that Cassie has very specific reasons for why she has sought these men out. And trust me, it is not just for polite conversation. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the pros here. First off, shout out to the director Emerald Fennell. I wasn't familiar with the name prior to this. However, when I was watching the film, there's a point where Cassie is watching YouTube videos and she's trying to learn how to apply makeup in a very modern way so that she'll stand out to these guys she's approaching. And when I saw the woman in the YouTube video, I was kind of like, you know, that looks a lot like the woman who plays Camilla Shand on the last couple of seasons of The Crown, which is a show I really love. And I kept looking, I was like, well, maybe that's not her. But then I looked again and I was like, no, that's definitely her. So I just assumed that she had a cameo appearance in this film. Well, come to find out, not only is she the actress who portrays Camilla Shand on The Crown, but she is also the director, the writer, and the producer of this film. She also was the previous showrunner, producer, and writer for the second season of the show Killing Eve, which I've heard great things about. One thing I love about doing these videos is all the information I discover while I'm doing my research. I don't like misinformation and I don't want to spread misinformation, so I try to be pretty well versed when I come on here and I talk to you guys. And just generally, I love Googling facts and information. I enjoy reading and I really love learning new things. And as I've continued this process, I realized that there are people that I am familiar with in one instance, and then as I do my research, I realize that they have these extensive careers, that they've done several projects prior to the one or two that I may have seen them in. And then once I find that out, it's basically information I can pass on to you guys and to other people. So it was really awesome to find that out. I think her vision for this film was so well executed and I enjoyed many aspects of it. In my review for Wonder Woman 1984, I reference a point in the film that involves the character Barbara, played by Kristen Wiig, and how she undergoes a very significant change at one point in the movie. And once she's on the other side of that change, she realizes that previously she was very vulnerable, very weak, and she was not able to protect herself, especially from predators. So it's like she was prey before, but now she is in a position to protect herself and others. The problem is it has an adverse effect, and the further she goes down that road, she starts to slowly move towards becoming a predator herself. And ironically enough, I think this film is a parallel to that, just without the superhero aspect. This is dealing with a woman who recognizes the reality of the world, especially when it comes to men, and she is doing what she can to expose that. And this film as a whole is really taking a shot at rape culture. It is exposing the fallacy of the nice guy and what that really means. This whole belief that just because I am not attacking you, being aggressive, dragging you into some alley, I'm not doing anything outwardly physical or violent. Hey, I'm a nice guy. I am simply helping you get to the place where you already want to be. What's wrong with that? It's very similar to how people with racist ideologies tell themselves that, hey, I'm not racist. I don't call you the N-word. I'm not burning crosses. I am not weaponizing my privilege as a white person to cause harm to other black people. I am not racist. And yet, these same people still harbor racist views internally. And yes, it does apply to interracial relationships, but that's another conversation for another time. Usually in these situations, the men are protected and the women are blamed, they are shunned, they are outcast, they are left to deal with the scars and the trauma of those experiences. And the men, they just keep on trucking on to the next. There's a theory that the title of this film is a direct correlation to the Brock Turner case. I won't go too deep into it, you can Google him, but all I will say is that in the media, he was regularly referred to as a promising young man. Which tells you all you need to know. And even beyond that context, I think when you watch the film in its entirety, it's very clear who and what the title is referring to. I also really appreciated the perspective of the film. Often when it comes to trauma or traumatic events, we see it from the perspective of the person that the trauma has been inflicted upon. But in this film, we're seeing more of a secondhand perspective. Even when something like that happens to a specific person, it also has a very devastating effect on the people around them, and I'm glad that this film took a look at that. I thought that Carey Mulligan did a phenomenal job in this film, and it was kind of a departure as far as the types of roles and characters that I've seen her portray in the past. She's done a lot of period pieces. Whenever I heard her name, I would automatically think of Shame, of The Great Gatsby, and Suffragette. And there are many other period pieces she's done as well, but this is very much in the here and now, in the present, and I love that she took this on. And I think it is a huge step forward for her because her performance is this film. It cannot work without her, and I think she really makes the most of every scene that she's in and every moment that she's a part of in this film. I even like that in her performance and throughout the film, there's this dark comedy aspect to it, which normally would not work given how heavy and dark the subject matter is. But I think it was done in a very tasteful way, and it makes it so that it's not such a heavy experience watching this. I like that with Cassie, there's this real sense of snarkiness, of wit, and of confidence. The characterization and the dialogue. Really? Are you sure? I don't know. Like, I loved all of those moments with her. It made all of those moments very satisfying, especially given the motive for what she's doing. I would absolutely be surprised if she didn't get a nomination for this film because, as I said, her performance really made this, and I thought she did an excellent job. I also really enjoyed the cinematography and the visual style in this film. With some films where there's a darker subject matter, the color palette or the style of it is more muted, is a lot more somber, is grayed out, so to speak. But I like that this film wasn't afraid to be vibrant and colorful and quirky. As a matter of fact, there are a lot of times that the style of it made me think of like an 80s or a 90s film. And I'm not sure what the setting was specifically, but it could have easily passed for a film where the story was set in either one of those decades. So we're gonna jump over to the cons. There is one central con in this film that I know is absolutely going to polarize people when they see it. And that, of course, is the ending of this film. I will be very honest and say that based off the trailers, I was expecting something from this film that it did not necessarily give me. It kind of paints the idea of this being a certain type of film, but it's not quite that exactly. So getting around to the ending, it was very disorienting to watch because based on the build-up, I would not have expected what happened to happen. Did it make me mad? Yeah, absolutely. However, I will say after I took a minute, marinated a little bit, read some articles, and actually listened and read up on what Emerald Fennell had to say about making the ending that way, I understood it a lot better. I still was not 100% happy with it, but I was able to at least respect why the ending was done that way. I think we have films that are escapist type films. You can kind of get lost in the world of the film that you're watching and it doesn't have to reflect our day-to-day reality. And then there are other films where you think you're getting something like that and then it's like, boom, reality just hits you out of nowhere. And it's just kind of like, whoa, okay. All right, wasn't ready for that. Queen and Slim is one example. I did not want to see that film because I did not appreciate the narrative, especially with these two dark-skinned leads. I knew how it was going to end, and I was doing my best to avoid it, but then I ended up not having to pay for it, so I was like, I'll just go ahead and watch this. And the ending came, and in many ways, it was worse than what I thought it was going to be, but it still was exactly what I thought it was going to be. So after it was over, I was in a horrible mood for the rest of the day. I was just like, why? Who asked for this? I was quite heated for a while after that film. I did have a similar thought with this film. However, I will say that both of those films are shedding light on a very relevant topic. There is a reality in both of these films that we do have to acknowledge whether we like it or not. Was I expecting a happy ending necessarily? No, but I still wasn't expecting this. But although I wasn't the biggest fan of it, I can respect the vision for it. I do understand that it's making a very specific point about the world and about society and the consequences or lack of consequences in these real life scenarios. So I totally get that. I did think there was a weird tonal shift that happens at the end of the film that I didn't think was necessarily appropriate. It was kind of off base, and it was uncomfortable to see that because aspects of it felt like it was being played for laughs, which you get that throughout the film, but the timing of it for me at that point was just like, Don't know if we needed this here. And then to tie the ending back into Cassie's actions throughout this film, I was just expecting a little bit more from her interactions with all these men. Felt like there were these build-ups, these crescendos in those moments, and then it was like, oh. And then there was another build-up, crescendo, crescendo. Oh, okay. I can't necessarily say that it would have made it a better film if some of these scenarios that are presented in the film actually happened, but I think it would have been interesting to see. I kind of wish that we had just gone for it as far as that, like gone all the way there. I will say that it's a contrast to Barbara in Wonder Woman 1984. She ends up going down the wrong road when her intentions are just to protect herself. I think in this film, there is an understanding that Cassie is aware of the mission that she's on and that she also doesn't want to become what she is going up against. And I actually get that. And it's interesting that that contrast is there because these films are not similar at all, but that aspect of it they kind of have in common. So I thought that was really interesting. I just think it kind of took the wind out of my sails a little bit because there was a certain expectation I had as far as what was going to happen throughout the film. And then when it didn't happen, I was kind of like, so it was kind of an up and down feeling because I felt like I was getting one thing and then I ended up kind of getting something else. But even that in itself kind of reflects reality if I actually think about it. But anyway, but overall, I think the vision for this film was something very impactful, very relevant, and I think that Emerald Fennell and Carey Mulligan really made the most of their collaboration, even if everything didn't come together exactly the way I wanted it to. So I will give Promising Young Woman a B+. Great direction, solid writing, awesome performance from Carey Mulligan with plenty of twists and turns in the story, and definitely a couple I wasn't expecting. So all in all, I just appreciate that this film really took a risk in telling a story that needs to be told, but in a very layered, interesting, and complex way. Promising Young Woman is currently playing in theaters, and it is also available on VOD, video on demand. So you guys can check that out, leave your thoughts below, and let me know what you think. So once again, this is D, Movieman, signing off, and I'll see you at the movies.